the cultural element and how we're raised a certain way, we grow up a certain way, and we pass that on. And, you know, I don't think it's just like people don't have the evidence of like what child development is, because you could give them the evidence and that wouldn't necessarily change the way they do things. One of the things about, that you're talking about is like, raising obedient children, like having your children under control and having them listen, which is something I see a lot, with other families and some of our friends. This notion of like the children need to be obedient, they need to have good manners, they need to sit down and just, do what is said. And for me, I see it as like, because even I see that within myself, like, I see them as like chaos, right? Like the children are like pure chaos. And I'm playing, in some regard, I'm playing this role of order, but there's a way I could play it where it's skillful, where it's like, I'm just keeping them out of trouble. So I'm making sure they don't do anything that's dangerous. But otherwise, I'm allowing them to have this freedom and this space. But even that kind of like playing that relationship in a skillful way between order and chaos is difficult. There's like an emotional capacity you need to have. There's an ability to let go, an ability to tolerate mess and disorder and chaos, which like a lot of us just don't have that ability. So it's just like easier to be like, okay, don't make a mess, sit down, sit here. It's almost like we don't have we're not taught how to like tolerate that. And I wonder if it's also because we were just taught like to sit still and to prioritize order instead of like play and free flowing spontaneity.
Yeah, that's very anal. That's because we learned that, right, as adults to be, orderly or whatever. Well, we have to, one thing people don't seem to realize, and this is part of the European history in our culture, which was the assumption that you have to punish children to be good. And this is Immanuel Kant, the philosopher, actually wrote this out, that you have to get children to obey the rules that the adult has in order for them later, so this is called heteronomy, in order for them later to be autonomous and make their own rules and decide. And so they have to bend their will. You have to actually break their will for them to later have their will. Which to the Native Americans, they were appalled at this idea. What? You break the child's will, you're breaking their spirit. This is forever. You have now ruined the child, essentially, because you think that you have to control them, right? You have this idea of original sin, that children are evil, they're born wild and whatever. Whereas in Native American communities, the child wants to be, and all children want to be part of the community. They want to pitch in. And so Barbara Rogoff, the psychologist, has done a number of studies with Mayan communities, for example, where the children, there's no punishment, there's no direction, but the little kid at 1 year old wants to help. And so they let them help. They sweep the floor and they make a mess of it. But they're pitching in. This is a sensitive period, it seems, for learning to help the family, the community, to do chores. We wait until they're teens and then they say, what? I don't want to do that. Because you pass that sensitive period of building the habits of being one of the members of the community. One of the problems that we have today is that a lot of adult work is in front of a computer. So the children, what are they doing to pitch in? They can't do anything, right? So they're going to either being modeled to pay attention to screens all the time, which is not really all that great, right? So you want, to have a normal community. You'd be making the food, you'd be harvesting, planting, you'd be gathering, cooking, all these things together. And the child just wants to do it too. And we kind of broke that off as well in the modern society, where we order in the food, right? Or, microwave it or whatever. And the child doesn't learn how to do anything, doesn't know how things grow and how do you make them palatable, whatever the food is and so on. So, yeah, we got to get back to real life know-how for children. I think Montessori schools and Waldorf schools are particularly better at this.
Yeah. I've been looking a little bit at those approaches, and some of the toys and things that we would get them was based on like Montessori, Waldorf kind of toys and developmental learning and how to engage their senses. And I think it was Rudolf Steiner. He's the one who was like the founder of the Waldorf school. So I've been kind of looking into that a little bit. And I think one of his main ideas was what you were saying before, is like not to really put them in school in this kind of formal schooling until they're like 7 years old. And just to have this more spontaneous, free flowing exploration.
We have to remember children want to learn. That's what they're learning machines, really. They just learn how to learn. If you let them do it, you just have to set up the environments for them, or put them in environments that are going to teach them the things we want them to know, or things that work well. Not in bad environments like a violent place or something,
Yeah, I mean, this conversation is very resonant for me right now, because just where I'm at as a father, where I'm at in parenthood with these young children, and like really understanding how vital, like especially these first 7 years, like just laying the architecture of who they're going to become, just makes me think about like all the other things I'm doing, and like, okay, all these other things I'm doing, I could kind of probably do later. But this right now, I'm in this sensitive time where the children really need me, and like the attention and the energy that I put into developing, helping them develop, is going to be with them for the rest of their lives. So yeah, it's just something that's very alive for me right now.
Yeah, so you might have, I don't know if you guys cook, but that would be a way to have the children help out, in a regular way, and learn, in our hunter-gatherer band culture, they let 2-year-olds play with machetes and things, because they trust their agency. They don't say, oh, no, that's dangerous. They never say that. Their muscles might get tense when a child does something, and the child pays attention to the tense muscles. But pretty much they believe that the child has this inner compass that's going to guide them towards well-being. And if they interfere too much, you're actually going to throw off that trajectory. And in the Western culture, we throw it off from the beginning, but with traumatizing medicalized birth, where the child's stress hormones never get released then. And so in medicalized hospital births, they did a study in the 50s comparing home births in Uganda with hospitalized births there, and European and American hospital births. And the hospital birth kids would come out very sleepy and tired, because their mothers had been drugged. Their mothers, you latch down mom, and she can't move very much. She starts to have more pain. She needs painkiller, or the doctor wants to speed up or slow down her labor. And then that also causes pain. And so then she has painkiller, and then she ends up maybe with cesarean even these days. But the babies come out and they can barely do anything. And then they sleep a lot. And then when they're awake, they cry. And this happens for months. They sleep and cry, sleep and cry. So people in the Western world think, oh, that's just normal for babies. They don't smile until they're about 2 months old. They can't look you in the eye. Not in the home birth babies. Home birth babies, they're ready to look at their mother and follow the mother from day one. They can smile already. And they're happy. They don't cry. So that's the norm, right? That we forgot. Our baselines for what's normal have just slipped down because of all the, poor knowledge and poor practices. And so now we think all these bad things that are happening are normal for people. Normal to have aggressive and self-centered people, adults. It's like, oh, that's just human nature. No, it isn't.